Welcome to video number 27 of the Quick Strike video series for February. Today we are finally going to cover the option matrix. And if you have clicked this menu before, you're going to see there's a little bit of difference now with this latest build that was released this morning. Before we get started over there, let's remind ourselves where we are. Again, we're on the market dashboard, product overview page. Today, our favorite product is Eurodollars in the interest rates or US rates product group. And I chose Eurodollars because it has probably the most diverse matrix of all the product groups, so that'll give you a good idea of how it works in very great detail. And as always, I can select that favorite product over here in the My Account section and change my group and product as the market changes for me and my trading. So let's get started on the option matrix. Let's pull down this menu and take a look and talk about what we're seeing here. So everything that was available prior to this morning's release is over here. And all the new stuff is over here, and we mark it as beta because as confident as we are in what we have released, we still have it out there as a beta because it might change. We might get some suggestions. We might add some tabs, might add some a little bit of functionality that that's not quite there yet. So, or if there is a bug, it's not necessarily unexpected, but you know, for all intents and purposes, it should work fairly well. We've been playing with it quite a bit and pretty happy with it. So everything that happens over here in the value matrix is now gonna be available over in 3 parts on the price, volatility, and open interest and volume matrix. Now I'm going to step over here for a minute, and these will be, all of these will be up here for a period of time while people make the transition. But I'm going to just show you what it looks like here so we see a little bit of the difference. So the big thing is, so right now you see the matrix value here, and if I wanted to change where we were at any given time on this grid, I had to open up this matrix value drop down and then choose accordingly, okay? Expiration filter is going to be the same, auto calculate. Plus minus strikes used to be over here in both versions, and now we moved it over here so it's more obvious to increase or decrease the number of strikes you see in the grid. So the big change you're going to see is when I come over here, we've separated these now. Instead of showing everything in this single drop down, we've separated these by group. And typically, you know, these are the areas you're going to be working in at any given time. And we just felt like it made a little more sense to finally go this route because we are going to try to expand the matrix functionality as much as we possibly can because I really find them to be very useful when looking at things in the aggregate. Okay, so prices, volatility, open interest. Let's take a look at the prices. And the immediate thing that we're going to see is different is now there's no drop down anymore, but now there's a bunch of tabs. Okay, so anything that's related to prices, you know, we have the current prices, the settlements, and then the Greeks is now in this prices section. Okay, so we made that distinction in saying, oh, this is related to what comes out of the pricing model. Okay, so as you can see, the grid looks generally the same. I think it's just a lot easier to use by seeing the tabs, and you immediately know what's available to you from a selection standpoint right in front of you. Now, we don't really need to visit all of these tabs on this page really because they're pretty self-explanatory. But I will explain this section here. Settles and Greeks are, you know, they kind of speak for themselves, but let's just talk about what the structure of this grid is going to look like. So prices, when we're on the prices and or the settles tab, we're going to see if you see a gray background here, that means it's the at the money strike. So when something's at the money, you're going to see the straddle price, and then you're going to see out of the money put prices and out of the money call prices. So that's what prices are. So it's going to be like the options that would typically trade in those strikes. Okay. When calls is going to show all calls, puts is going to show all puts, and straddles is going to show all straddles. So that's the big difference there. Settles is going to do the same thing with settlement prices, except, you know, it's going to show, instead of the current price, it's going to show what the settlement price was for these strikes. So same thing, background, gray background is the at the money straddles, then out of the money puts, and out of the money calls. Okay, and then same thing again, all calls, all puts, all straddles. And then the Greeks are the Greeks. I'm going to show you the deltas. And what you're going to see here is going to be related to what the prices tab would show you. So out of the money delta on the downside, out of the money delta on the upside, and then the straddle delta on the highlighted region. Okay, so that's really the crux of how this thing works. Now, as we've seen before on a lot of the pages, right? Any symbol you see is going to be clickable. So if I click on that, I'm going to get my well, see, we're not trading today. It's Saturday, so we'll have to go to our previous day to see a futures price, but you're going to get the futures underlying if you click on a future symbol. So we've grouped these by future symbol up top, and then we've shown them in expiration order here down below. So we have future symbols in this top row with the days to expiration and what the settlement price is, or the current price is. In this case, it's the settlement price. And then we have the expirations, and it's, again, these are clickable. So if I click on this, I'm going to get the expiration pop up. Okay, nothing going on intraday because it's Saturday. 30-day history, volatility, and all the things you've come to expect up here from a pop-up standpoint. Then also, really the reason behind this next thing you see, the strike pop-up, the matrix is really the reason behind the strike pop-up. So given that we're on a matrix that has more than one expiration, we can now easily open up the different expirations here and take a look at things in detail rather quickly. Okay, so the matrix was what spawned the strike detail. All right, so that is essentially how these work. Okay, and you have the option to turn, like this top header is always going to be on. There's an option to turn this bottom header off. I like to have it on just because when I scroll down, in case I have too many on the screen, I always know where I'm at. And of course, you're always going to get your crosshair targeting highlight here, so you really have a pretty good idea where you are. Now, what you should come to expect, just as a little precursor, there's going to be some interesting additions made to this, where we'll start doing some strip calculations and some grouping, that kind of thing, maybe some customized pop-up boxes depending on what tab is present. But we'll keep you abreast of that as we release more videos when the functionality merits some updates to the information that's out there. Okay, so just as a quick run through of what's up here, so this expiration filter has changed. Before, it used to be pretty straightforward where you just got to pick the entire group, but now what you can do is you can turn off an entire group, but you can also turn off particular items within that group. So if I want to turn off all the serials in this white group and say okay, then I'm just looking at all the calendars here now. Okay, so pretty simple, straightforward. So I can turn off all of these, and I'll turn on the blues instead. So much easier to control now. I did click it. There we go. All right. What did I do? Did I leave them on? Oh, I turned off everything, which gave me everything. So I need to click this and this. Okay, here we go. Now we'll get the blues. I had no check boxes, so it assumed everything was on. So now I have all the blues and the short blues. So some neat stuff that you can do here. And then also a nice thing, which I like about this, me personally, is I could turn off these weeklies, because as much as they're interesting and going to be valuable at some point, they're not quite valuable just yet. So now I have a nice, concise looking little screen here with all the information in the blue part of the curve. Okay. Then I'm going to go over here, the auto calculate section. So what we can do, if I check this group totals, let's take a look and see what happens here. Right now we're on prices. So we consider a group to be each of these. Okay. So the blues are a group in and of themselves. So when we see this group total, it's going to sum everything across here. Everything across the row is going to get summed. So you're basically seeing a strip for this strike. Okay. So now if I show column totals, let's do that. So we should see everything totaled up here that's currently displayed, everything showing up here. So now we're going to get a price all the way up and down. Doesn't make so much sense here from a price standpoint, but when we start to look at the other stuff like open interest and volume, it's going to be pretty interesting to look at. Okay, so we're going to turn that one off, and I can show row totals, and what you're going to see here is a duplicate, okay, of what you're seeing here. So let's see how that differs. Now let's go turn on the whites again, and we might get a little bit of a, yeah, so we still fit on the screen. But now what you see is we have group totals for the whites, and then group totals for the blues, and then total totals. Okay, so there's some nice auto calculating that you can do here by turning those check boxes on. And then interesting enough, you can show average values, and this isn't so valuable from the Eurodollar standpoint, but they do this a lot in the energies, the WTI in particular. Okay, so let's turn off this white section again and say okay. And now we're back to where we are. All right, so auto calculate, this lets you do some summing and averaging within the grid itself. Okay, and then less strikes will shrink this down by a handful, and more strikes will increase this by a handful. Okay, so now it's right in front of you instead of being over here. The buttons were a little bit hard to see sometimes, and not everybody, it wasn't very obvious to a lot of people, so we just decided to make it a little bit more obvious. Okay, so this is the price matrix. Now let's take a look at the volatility matrix. So again, pretty self-explanatory. Click on a tab, you're going to see the volatilities here. So right now you're seeing all the volatilities for each strike. Everything's clickable like it was before. So we have in the Euro-dollar case, we have its volatility, then a Black-Scholes volatility, and then a basis point volatility, which if you've listened to the videos before, that is the same as the volatility running up here as the default. And then we're seeing other things like price skew, vol skew, and vol step. So these are like vol skew, for instance, is just going to tell you the difference between the at the money and the wing year option. All right, so it's a nice way to see how much volatility is pumped up on those wings. And then vol step is just another version of that, but with differences between the strikes. Okay, so this is the volatility section. I use this quite a bit, especially when I'm looking at the euro dollars. It's always sort of enlightening to take a look and see what the vols look like across the board all at one time. So that's the volatility matrix. Okay, now the open interest and volume matrix. So what you're going to see here is just as you expect, the open interest and volume numbers, but now we got them segregated out so you can see all the call open interest, the put open interest, the total open interest, and the changes, and then the percent changes. And then you also have volume information and then change information day over day. So now I really like this. If I'm looking, I can look at the total open interest in a particular strike. You're going to see some good numbers here. And what I can do here then is this is where this row total and group total come into play. So now I could see what the open interest is across an entire strike here very easily. Okay, so let's go to something else. Let's go to the whites here. I'm going to turn off this stuff. I'm going to show you something which is pretty interesting. Go over here to the whites. Okay, and what I find neat, especially here in the euro dollars, is that look, you have par calls, basically zero interest rate, and there's quite a bit of open interest in that one. So this is a real easy way to see the totals across a particular strike. And then we also have column totals, and I can click on this. And so what you're seeing here is these are the totals for each. So you get the open interest in March. Now, the most important thing to keep in mind here is that this is the open interest for all of the strikes that are currently showing. Okay, so this is a sum of what's showing. So the open interest may be bigger in this particular expiration for the strikes that aren't showing. So what we're working on is a way to have a totals box down below. If the totals are on, then you'll see the total that's showing, the total in general, and then the aggregate in general. So that is sort of an enhancement we're going to make. But right now, if you want to call it limitation, is that it's only summing what you're seeing on the screen. Okay, so that is the option matrix, column 1, price matrix, volatility matrix, open interest and volume matrix. Everything you saw here it can be done in the old version. I just feel like this is a more intuitive version and just lays things out in front of you more easily for you to really investigate more quickly and more thoroughly. So you have a pretty good idea what's going on. All right, so we will stop there for today. We will probably come back at some point and talk about these bottom two. These are specific to, this one is specific to the spread finder, specific to the euro dollar. So that may be a while before we touch on that. And ATM ratios, we'll talk about that at a later time. But for now, you have pretty much exhausted the entire menu structure. We have a couple more videos left here in the month. So I think I have one other idea for the next couple of days, and then we might do a summary demonstration one more time, just as a sort of a day in the life of using Quick Strike type of thing. So thanks again for taking the time to watch, and we will talk to you soon.